Louisiana State President. I'm also the Fraud Watch Network lead for the Louisiana State Office. Joining me today is Emily Husson. She is the Deputy Press Secretary for the Louisiana Attorney General's Office. And today's presentation, we're going to talk about the role of the Attorney General's Office in fighting fraud and scams, how someone can file a complaint with the Attorney General, how the Attorney General's Office is helping to combat fraud, how to recognize a scam, and how we can protect ourselves from fraud and scams. So, Emily, thank you for joining us today. And does that sound like something we'll be able to cover in this short conversation today?
Definitely. We've got a fun, information-filled session about to go on.
Okay, great. So as we start our conversation, maybe you could tell us a little about the role of the Attorney General's Office in fighting fraud and scams.
Yeah, so the Attorney General, it's important, I think, for people to be able to know kind of what he does and what he's able to do through the state constitution. So the Attorney General is the chief legal officer of the state. So Jeff Landry's main goal is to protect the rights and the interests of the state of Louisiana. So he not only holds the highest legal authority deemed in the Constitution, but he also holds the highest legal authority in the executive branch. So through this, he's able to represent the state and its agencies in various litigation. He's also able to give advice to many state agencies and kind of lobby on behalf of the state at the federal level.
Okay. So, we know that scammers are opportunists, and they're certainly having a field day during this time of COVID. And, since we've been in, almost lockdowns for almost a year now, we've seen individuals posing as legitimate businesses, and we've seen online shopping scams. So if an individual has been scammed or feel like they've been scammed, how would they go about filing a complaint with the Attorney General's Office?
Yeah, so the Attorney General's Office has a consumer protection hotline. This is housed out of our consumer protection section, and you can file a complaint by phone at 800-351-4889, or you can do so at agjefflandry.com/consumer protection. But look, I also suggest reporting this at the federal level with the Federal Trade Commission. So you can do so by reportfraud.ftc/gov. And that's a great place to not only report it, but learn more about scams at the federal level while we take care of the state level.
Okay, great. So when we host our workshops, whether those be virtual or in person, we tell our attendees that the biggest single thing they can do to protect themselves is to be skeptical and to remain vigilant against these fraudsters and scammers. So how is the Attorney General's Office helping to combat specifically fraud in Louisiana?
And that's a great question. So one of the biggest things we do is consumer education. So like y'all, we go into Rotary clubs, we talk to schools, we talk to meetings, to churches, to all the different kind of groups about really being informed, because to best fight a scam, you need to know about the scam. And so we inform the public, we educate the public on these things, and in very specific circumstances, we actually are able to bring litigation against unfair trade practices. And so through that, we also have this incredible AG that uses his bully pulpit to talk with different federal agencies. In fact, last year, he actually was able to lobby to Congress, a big bipartisan push with EDIS bill, to urge Congress to amend the Victims of Crime Act in 1984 to include senior victims of fraud. So not only is Jeff Landry educating the public about this, but he's also lobbying on their behalf that they be included in the senior victims of fraud. So it's important to note that we're fighting for Louisiana both at the public level, but also at that federal level.
Great. And I was just going to comment on that. So not only fighting against scammers here in Louisiana, but also in Washington, which is very important. And we have a similar kind of role where we can track at the national level. We can track scams and frauds locally, as a scam map, so to speak. So and I'll give a little bit of information about that as we get closer to the end of our conversation. But it's where individuals can go and speak to someone on our Fraud Watch network group to talk about maybe what are the local scams, what's happening in their area, and also what might be happening nationally, because if it's happening at the national level, eventually it's going to make it down here to to the Gulf Coast and Louisiana. So any advice for our members and seniors, and anyone who is listening to this broadcast, on how they might know or recognize the scam when they see it?
So what you mentioned before about being skeptical is so important. We like to say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So usually you're not going to win a free car by a text message. You're probably not going to get this awesome vacation package just because you got an Instagram message. And so if it sounds too good to be true, be skeptical of that. Don't sign away your personal information. Don't sign away a check just because you think it might be a good idea. Make sure that you're right. One thing that I really suggest to people is talk to your friends and family about it. If if your spouse says maybe that's not a good idea, if your friend says, oh, well, I saw in the news someone got scammed yesterday, then you could be the next victim of a scam. And so being very skeptical, talking to the people around you, being weary of handing out your personal information, keeping those strong passwords on your accounts, and just practicing good common sense. I think that's something that is so important to remember to make sure to become a victim of fraud.
Yeah, and all good advice. And we all are hopeful that that too good to be true thing is going to happen to us. But again, you said it correctly. If it's too good to be true, it probably is, and we just need to be aware. And it is unfortunate that there is so much of our personal information that lives out in the on the web, in the Twitter sphere, and wherever it is. And so with just a little bit of information, scammers, fraudsters can take that information, create fake identities, and they leave us on the hook for it. They get the benefits and we get the bill.
Yeah.
So coming back to our Fraud Watch network, AARP does have that national network, and it's a way to help our members and others, whoever accesses it. And you don't have to be an AARP member to access that information, but to be able to help them recognize and combat fraud. And it is what it is. It's a Fraud Watch network. And what we're seeing through that network and local calls that we get is an uptick in calls related to COVID scams, whether that's stimulus money, nursing home, vaccine scams. So from the perspective of the Attorney General, what can you tell us about those, particular scams, and how our listeners, again, can help to protect themselves?
Yeah, and so this is so important. That stimulus money that you may receive is exactly that. It's stimulus money. So while Medicaid recipients to sign over these resources to nursing homes, that doesn't apply to a stimulus check. Those monies were classified as a tax credit. So Medicaid recipients should keep their stimulus payments, and if not, they should report it to our office. This is meant to stimulate the economy. That's their personal money, and so they in no way are required to hand that over or sign it over to anybody. So that goes for anyone in a nursing home or an assisted living or something like that. I think another big thing regarding COVID-19 is the vaccine. I know everyone wants to get it and everyone's in a hurry to get it, but no amount of money or no amount of really anything is going to get you farther up the line. So that means that you wait your turn, you'll get it eventually, but don't be in a rush and then accidentally become a victim of fraud. So that's so important. And I think one of my last things that I really would like everyone to know about is COVID-19 is the testing kits. We've seen an uptick of that online, that they're selling COVID-19 testing kits, but a lot of those are not registered through any organization that would regulate that. So don't fall for that, and don't think that just because someone is sending you a kit that's hospital grade, or you get out of that doctor's visit. Most of the time that's a scam. So don't fall for that. But
And
yeah,
what we
they're pretty clever about COVID-19. They're looking to take advantage of victims in the nation because they know we're in a really vulnerable place.
Yes. And you know, what we tell people all the time is go to a trusted source. You know, whether it's your doctor or it's CDC or the governor's office or the attorney general's office or local health department. And you shouldn't have to pay money to get money. And you shouldn't have to pay money to get in line for a COVID shot. And I mean, you know, it seems simple to us, but it's not so simple in the general population when, like you say, people are anxious and they're looking to get in line first and then maybe get ahead in line. So again, all great, you know, tips and suggestions for our listeners. And it is a shame that we have to have this conversation during these times when people are so concerned about their health and whether or not, you know, they'll be able to get that vaccine, and whether they'll be able to put food on the table and pay their bills and pay their house notes and buy fuel and buy medicines. And, you know, scammers, though, they are what they are. They're criminals, and they don't care about us, and they don't care about, you know, our vulnerable population. So those are all great tips, and it comes down to stop, think, verify, be skeptical. You know, you don't get something for nothing. And so the tips have been helpful and insightful. And, you know, I'm beginning to wrap up our conversation now. And it's been great talking with you and to discuss the role of the Attorney General office in fighting fraud. So in closing our conversation today, any final thoughts or comments that you'd like to share? And certainly we want your the Attorney General's contact information, you know, to share with our listeners.
Of course, you know, one of the biggest things is staying informed, like you mentioned earlier. So you can do that by visiting our website at agjefflandry.com. We keep a lot of up-to-date information. We specifically have a tab on our website dealing with seniors. Jeff Landry is really passionate about protecting seniors, and so our staff is passionate about it as well. And we want to make sure everyone is informed, educated on these topics so you don't become a victim. You know, we care about protecting Louisiana, and that includes the elderly. And so you can contact our office there. And it'd be great to follow us on social media at AG Jeff Landry. You can find the Louisiana Department of Justice pretty easily. But thank you so much for letting us be here. We love getting to talk with y'all.
That's great, Emily. And look, we appreciate you taking the time, and please do let the Attorney General know that we appreciate your tips, your insight, and allowing you to join us today. And let's keep in touch, and maybe we can have these periodic conversations.
Yeah.
You know, the topic du jour, the fraud du jour, you know, whatever we feel is important, you know, to get the message out to our members and viewers and the age 50 plus in Louisiana.
Yeah, that's perfect. We'll gladly do it.
Great. And to our viewers, we can all be fraud fighters. If you can spot a scam, you can stop a scam. You should report scams to local law enforcement. For help from AARP, you can call 1-877-908-3360 or visit the AARP Fraud Watch Network at www.aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork. You can also text FWN to 50757 to receive bi-weekly alerts from the Fraud Watch Network. And remember to stay safe, Louisiana. Continue to wear your face coverings. Keep 6 feet of distance between yourself and others. Wash your hands often. Stay home if you're sick. And we thank you for joining us today. And until next time, goodbye.